Real thoughts, real trades, real journey. A video journal documenting the lessons learned on my journey to becoming a disciplined trader. Welcome to Trading the Journey. I'm Neil, and today I want to share a trading day that taught me one important lesson. Let's see what the market had to teach me. So yesterday, this is for yesterday. I had a lot going on yesterday, so that's why I didn't put up the video. I had a film callback to attend to, and then I had acting class. So I had a lot going on yesterday, and I didn't post this. So here it is. So yesterday was an interesting day. I had one break even, one loser, one winner. After a long, steady trend up on the chart since the open session yesterday, my bias was bullish. And you can see how yesterday turned out during the New York session. The New York session turned out to be bearish. So when I say what my bias is, it's for the New York session. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. That's the way it goes. But ultimately, the New York session was bearish. And this was after a steady trend up, really since yesterday's New York session around 2:45-ish, 3 o'clock. So you can see I got these candles circled here as to which was which. Now, the break even, I got in on this candle, right? It reached my 1-to-1, so I moved my stop up. And it was just, it was a tease. If I remember correctly, I think this candle was a tease. I think it was something like, I had my stop like right here. And it would just tease. It held this support right here. And I was just thinking that people in the market don't know which direction they want to I'm sorry, let me correct myself. The market doesn't know which direction it wanted to go in. It was just ugly price action. And I was kind of getting antsy. I almost considered shutting it down and just taking no trade at all. And then that kind of happened. I didn't get in on any of these because there were these long wicks down. It was just teasing and teasing and teasing. And then, the bulls would come back in and push the price back up. And so now this happened, and it was a strong enough power bar for me to get in. It was, about 75% of the high and low price. And it cleared this recent swing here. And so I got in on that, got the 1-to-1, and then it came back up and stopped me out here. So that was trade number one. Wasn't crushing, and actually what caught me by surprise was there was a little bit of slippage, which caused a technical loss, which it's just I get irritated at stuff like that. But you got to expect that. And what I used to do was whenever I would move my stop up to 1-to-1, I would do maybe like a couple of bucks. Something to consider for other trades. Right now, I'm trying to keep it as close to the break even as possible because I've had a few trades where the price would come back, stop me out, but never really reach close to that 1-to-1, and then continue on in my favor. So I'm working on the management part of that. And those little voices in my head are just sometimes they start ripping at me like, come on, take a couple bucks, come on, move, go. So this trade was a break even. The next trade was definitely a loss. Another power bar trade, which this candle right here is what I went in on. I could have just put my stop right here, and it was still a stop out. Instead, I had my stop somewhere up here. I think around 20 SMA, And it ended up stopping me out regardless. Normally the play is put your stop, above or below the candle that you entered in on when it's a power bar play. These are Stephen Adams strategies. You can go look them up. It's called Trade Your Edge, something like that. He provides all that information, so I won't go over all that. And so as you can see, price, it stopped me out. It stopped me out actually on, if I remember correctly, it stopped me out on this candle right here, and this candle wasn't finished. But what this also provided was another opportunity to get in. And it did just that. And there were a couple of bullish signals. You had this kind of a weak 3 inside up here, but you had this bullish engulfing here. And then this pullback right here, which kind of provided more of this kind of tiny, I wouldn't say head and shoulders. It looks more like a W a little bit. So it was kind of a double bottom in a way. And so you had this massive candle here that closed above the 20 SMA, even though it didn't engulf it. And then it pulled back to the 20 SMA, and then it shot and cleared this swing high right here. And I entered in on this candle, taking a nice power bar up for a 2-to-1 win. Now, I want to actually talk about this one for a second, because I was thinking, when I initially got into this trade, I had put my, originally put the target right below the pre-market high, which wasn't part of the rules. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was thinking, just go for a home run and, hope for the best. And then I decided to move down to 3-to-1 as the trade was getting closer to that 2-to-1. And then I decided, man, it's actually the rules that I take a 2-to-1 win on this. It's actually the rules. So I moved my trade to 2-to-1. It was around this candle right here that I finally moved to my 2-to-1 win, that target. And eventually it was teasing me again right around here. And I was thinking, man, was I just too late or something like that? I don't know. Does it really matter? I was thinking it was going to pull back, and the voice was just kind of getting louder. And then it shot up and got me my 2-to-1 win, and I closed it down for the day. This trade is where I closed it down for the day because of what I did. I should have just put the target at 2-to-1 like I always done and leave it there and not touch it, because that's the rules. And as you can see, so psychologically I had to jump off. I had to stop and not take another trade. And even though, because we had this play right here that happened later, around 3 o'clock, I shut it down and decided not to take another trade. This would have been an awesome play to get in on, and as you can tell, if I had put my stop here, I'd have been stopped out. But if I'd have put my stop up here, I'd have gotten a 2-to-1 win. I'd have gotten a nice 2-to-1 win. But I shut it down for the day because psychologically I wasn't there. So that was my day. I hope your day was great. I know the price action for the market was a little wonky and wasn't that great until the afternoon, but it is what it is. Sometimes you get that and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it rips right off the grip, and I was hoping for a nice, waterfall right off the grip, because it did, because that opening candle took out the high of the day. And I think that probably was the signal that it wasn't going to be, that it could have been a bear day, but then it turned out to be a bear day. So Thank you for joining me for today's lesson. The market has voted. Today's lesson is written. I hope something from today's trade helps you on your own journey toward becoming a more disciplined trader. If today's trade reminded you of something you've experienced yourself, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed today's journal entry, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button on the video and subscribe to follow the journey. Until next time, real thoughts, real trades, real journey.